Hi everyone, I'm Shannon. I work on product development for MoveMyBiz.com and InsightPRM. We're excited to be regularly updating these products to make sales prospecting and engagement easier and more intuitive for our customer. So if you'd like to be involved, let us know. We are open to suggestions for features, editorials, and more. Welcome to our webinar today. It's hosted by Larry Dillon. He is the President and CEO of Wendover Corporation, MoveMyBiz.com, and InsightPRM. For over 25 years, Larry has been consulting companies on best practices for appointment setting, and he's here to share these strategies with you. Here's Larry.
Thanks, Shannon. Thank you, everyone, for taking time out of your busy day. I'm excited to talk about this. We've had a tremendous response to this webinar. It's always widely attended. If you guys want to reach out to me, if you have questions or comments, or if you have suggestions for topics you'd like us to cover or speakers you'd like us to engage with, you can reach me at larry@InsightPRM.com. Of course, we want this to be interactive, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask away. I'll try to get to the questions. We've got a lot of ground to cover today, so I'm going to sort of jump right into it. About 3 years ago, I had a lot of in-depth conversations with our customers. As Shannon said, this is our 25th year anniversary, and in that time we've done business with about 10,000 different clients in the U.S., Canada, England, Scotland, and Ireland. The only reason that I mention that, and also all different industries, technology, transportation, office furniture, commercial real estate, carpeting, ceiling tile, you name it. The reason that I mention that is because across a broad spectrum of industries and geography, the number one issue that we consistently see is the appointment setting function in sales organizations always seems to be a difficult one to deal with. So we set out 3 years ago to try to come up with a way to add to the success that companies are having with appointment setting, not necessarily change it too much or take away from it, but basically build on top of it. And why is that? Well, here are the numbers. I've been doing this for 25 years, and what I can tell you is you can take 3 companies in the same industry, same market, give them the same opportunities, and one guy is not going to get any appointments, another guy's going to get maybe 5–10% appointments, and then there's always somebody who's able to get 15, 20, 25, 35% appointments quarter after quarter after quarter, no matter what. So there's definitely something going on that's allowing that wide range of productivity, and what are the issues and how can we deal with it? So it's kind of confusing about InsightPRM and MoveMyBiz.com and how they're all combined together, but basically what we've tried to do is to come up with a way and try to understand the appointment setting process and make it what can we do to make it easier? What can we do to add to it? And basically what I did is I said, how do we take it from a situation where you need a very skilled, difficult to find appointment setter, and is it possible that I could take my 17-year-old nephew, Liam Casey, and put him on the phone so that he can actually drive some revenue? So what the goal was, how can we engage more prospects? How can we get the customers to self-identify? And how can we simplify part of the prospecting appointment setting process? And that's what we're going to go through today. So without any further ado, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about the importance of appointment setting, what is the potential for gain. We've got a lot of great data on that from working with so many different companies. What's the big picture? What in terms of strategy? Changing the dynamic of appointment setting in your company has more to do with strategy than it has to do with the nuts and bolts of exactly what people are saying. Then we're going to talk about appointment setting today. Things have changed. We all know the environment has changed, yet I would say 90% of the companies that I deal with are still going to market in the same way, and guess what? They're having diminishing results. And then we're going to talk about back to basics. How do we find a good appointment setter? What do we need to do to set them up for success? So before we get started, let's do a quick poll. And I'm going to launch this poll and just ask you to fill this out just to get an idea. Are you seeing growth in your organization this year? Just click off whichever one seems to fit what you're seeing in the marketplace. This is always a good thing to get a gut check of, you know, how do you compare to what the other companies are seeing? And just so that you know, most of the folks that are on the call today are from technology, transportation, commercial real estate, leasing, commercial banking. We've got about 55% voted. Let's scramble a few more people. Let's see if we can't get that up to 75%. Let's do them for Liam Casey, my nephew. Do it for the kid. Awesome. Great. Thank you very much. This is a great group. Wow. All right. There's 75%. Let's just try to hit 80. A few more. Okay. Thank you. Wow. Thank you very much. This is great. So I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. And now I'm going to share the results with everyone. Let me know if you can see that. Can everyone see the results? Everyone can see the results? Just let me know if you can see the results. Oh, great. Thanks. So 45% of you are experiencing 5 to 14% growth. That's good. I think a few years ago this graph would have been inverted. I think we would have seen more people. I think it was about 25 or 30% were seeing no growth, where now it's down to 10%. So that's a good trend. So that helps you to benchmark where you stand against other folks. And let me just ask you one more quick question. How many of you have a specialized appointment setter? Full-time employee, part-time employee, outsourced appointment setting. You require your sales reps to set appointments. Just give us an idea of if you have that function sort of separated from sales. That's great. We're already up to 80%. You guys are awesome. Thank you. What a great group. That's awesome. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and close the poll, and I'm going to share this. So we can see that most people don't have a specialized function or require the sales reps to set appointments. So we're going to talk about that today, and I can share with you some of the results that we've got by looking at the most successful organizations and sort of how they set it up. So, okay, well, let's get started. Importance of appointment setting, what's at stake? I think if you're going to take an hour of your time with me today, you have the right to ask me, hey, Larry, if I execute on the kinds of things that you're talking about, what kind of results can I expect? And I'll throw that out to you. If you guys could, if you guys had a better appointment setting process in place, how much do you think you could increase your revenue by if you had a better appointment setting process in place? Okay, great. Thank you very much. So most of you said about that 25 to 50% range. And let me share with you, I'm going to go ahead and hide that. So that's kind of typical with what we see. We do a survey every year. If you want to get invited to take the survey, you also get the results. This is what we typically see. Right there in sort of that 25 to 50% range, that's where the bulk of folks feel that they could increase their revenue with. We think that number is probably 35%. We got an extreme case where we had a sales consultant working for us by the name of David Perry. He was in our London operation, and one of our clients hired him full-time to basically help him with appointment setting, and he was actually able to triple their sales. They went from 15 million to 45 million in 12 months just by executing and putting a formal process in place. So let's put that into perspective because, again, you're spending an hour of your time. Let's say you're a $10 million company. That could add $3.5 million in revenue to your top line figures. So I think it's time well spent, and I think that if you execute on some of the stuff that we're talking about, I think that's kind of the type of return that you could get from making some changes or additions to your appointment setting process. So let's talk about the big picture. The first thing is, if it's impossible for us to sit here and tell you exactly what the appointment setter should say. That's a little different for every company. I think what's more important is understanding the strategy. Strategy and thinking about your appointment setting process is so important, especially because I think we can all agree the marketplace has dramatically changed in the last 5 years, certainly the last 10 years. So we need to think about strategy. So if we can kind of switch gears and talk about that. Now, the next, I'm going to ask a question, and the first person to answer this correctly is going to get a free InsightPRM nice polo shirt. What percentage of sales reps will make quota this year? Just put it in your question box. First person to answer correctly. All right, we've got a winner. Matt, you're the winner. The answer was congratulations, Matt. We'll give you a call. So anyway, the answer is 50%. According to IDC, only 50% of sales reps are going to make quota this year. Now, the question is, what's the number one reason that sales reps won't make quota this year? And I'm going to open it up again. If anybody can answer that correctly, you'll get a sleeve of golf balls. There it is. Who was that? Setting appointments. Jim is the winner. Congratulations, Jim. That was rocket fast. Number one, that Jim, I think it took half a second. I don't think I was finished. They don't set enough appointments. So that's the key. So, and it's one of the most difficult things. So think about it. The number one reason that sales reps aren't going to make quota this year is failure to set appointments, yet it is the most troubling part about the sales process. From talking to VPs of sales, owners, CEOs around the world, it is the biggest thing that keeps them up at night. So how do you set appointments? Well, you've got to prospect. Prospecting means a lot of phone calls these days, right? Because I'm going to get voicemail 60 to 90% of the time. I'll give you a quick example. We got a web request from a sizable company, so I took the opportunity. It took me 17 calls, 17 attempts, excuse me, and 5 emails to finally get this person on the phone after 4 weeks. Now, 80% of sales reps give up after the first attempt. The funny thing is my rock stars are my top 100 clients out of 10,000 all know that. So they have policies in place that their reps have to make at least 17 attempts, even if the person has told them to go away. So when I finally got in touch with him, he said, "You're the only person that stuck by. I've got a decent amount of money left in my budget. I have to spend it or lose it. I got to get you a check by the end of the year." It was one of the easiest deals to close. Prospecting is all about making phone calls and making dials. It's a painful process. If you talk to appointment setters or inside sales reps, And that's one of the reasons that it's so difficult to place people in this position. And the question is, do you have a formal process in place for setting appointments? I'm going to open that up to a quick poll. Do you, just simply yes or no, do you have a formal process in place for setting appointments? Formal process in place for setting appointments. And I think these numbers are actually higher because I think we've got a unique group, because people that would show up to a webinar like this. So 48% said yes. I think if we took a general poll of businesses, that number would probably be down about 10%. I think this is a unique group that we've got here. So super important. One of the most successful companies that I've ever met that sets appointments talks about the reason for their success. They're converting 25 to 35% of the leads into appointments, an incredible number. They talk about 7 attempts no matter what. They talk about a process that's taken them years to develop. So having that process in place can really magnify the results. When you think about the fact that there are companies that are only converting 6% or 10% of leads into appointments, and that's, you know, listen, there's 3 or 4 major providers of leads, and that's across the board a significant increase in revenue for that company. So the next thing that we need to talk about, so it's a painful process, and is the technology help? Is it helping or hindering? So we're networked with professional appointment setters. These are independent contractors. They're typically single proprietors. They work from home. They do very well. Sorry, I had the poll up. The question, so we talk to you know, a lot of these professional appointment setters will be hired by our customers and generate, you know, tens of millions of dollars in incremental revenue for their various clients. And they can basically use any CRM that they want. The fact is that most of them have been using an Excel spreadsheet because the CRMs tend to slow them down. CRMs are great for managing customers. You need a CRM, but it isn't necessarily the best tool for appointment setting. In fact, about 3 years ago, we stopped recommending CRMs because we got too many complaints from clients. So you do need a CRM, but the idea is, here you are with a Phillips head screwdriver trying to put a flathead bolt screw in a flathead bolt. Yes, they're both screwdrivers, but you need a specialized tool, especially, you know, and you might think, well, we've got a CRM, and that's fine. I'm not trying to talk you out of a CRM, but if you're a $10 million company, there's a potential of $3.5 million on the line. So we really want to make sure that our technology is helping the appointment setter out versus hindering them. And here's some of the stats. In some CRMs, it could take as much as 58 minutes and about 300 clicks to make 10 cold calls to speak to one person. When you talk about this statistic to professional appointment setters, they'll all, you know, you'll get the chicken close. They'll shake their head. In some CRMs, that might be 40 minutes or 30 minutes. We really think it shouldn't be that long. We'll talk about this a little later on. There's a new breed of CRM. We're not the only ones to go down this road. They're called inside sales CRMs, fast CRMs, CRMs specifically designed for appointment setting, and they're filling this need. So there's probably a dozen companies out there. Ours is called InsightPRM, but certainly we're not the only ones out there. But it's something that you need to look at, and especially, like I said, if you've got $3.5 million a year online, you might want to consider this. So what these fast CRMs have done is take the 58 minutes down to The 9 phone calls where you left a voicemail are literally going to take about 2 minutes. So to have one 5-minute conversation and 9 cold calls, we're getting this down from 58 minutes to roughly 7.5 minutes. So very, very fast. That's what you're going to be looking for in terms of a tool for your appointment setters. So now let's talk about appointment setting today. The first thing is we need to have a plan. Again, the most successful companies that I've seen definitely have a plan in place. We're going to talk about the 25-50 rule. I think that this is one of the most important rules or laws that you need to consider when you're putting the plan together. And when I share this with companies who are trying to revamp their appointment setting process, it's almost like an aha moment and a light bulb clicks in their head. We're going to talk about engagement marketing and lead nurturing. These two new concepts can really magnify your results. You're talking about an increase of 25% to 50% to 300%. And then we'll talk about the technology. So as we're putting our plan together, the first thing we need to do is kind of look at what's going on in the marketplace. And here's the facts. Listen, B2B sales has changed forever. The skills that are required to take you to the next level in terms of your appointment setter, in terms of appointment setting, didn't exist 5 years ago. One of the key trends is peer-to-peer discussions about brands and products are now the biggest influencer of purchase decisions in B2B marketplace. So it's important that you're part of that discussion. You need to get published on the internet. And I realize that this may not seem like it's a direct connection to appointment setting, but I think you're going to find out that this can be an important concept to build into appointment setting that's really going to magnify your results. This is from Harvard Business Review. It's an article called The Death of Solution Selling or The End of Solution Selling. Great article. I think it's a must-read. They talk about, and MIT confirms the same information, selling power and so forth, 60% of a typical purchasing decision is made before they even speak to a salesperson. So if we have a choice of setting appointments with somebody that's already done the research versus somebody who hasn't quite decided that they're going to buy yet, I think we'd agree, and the most successful companies, according to Harvard Business Review, the top 5% of companies are really looking to prospect and set appointments for companies before they fully, in the article it says, before they fully decided to buy whatever it is that you're selling. That is a vast departure from the 80s, 90s, and even 2000s, where a lot of you have heard about BANT, qualified leads, budget, authority, need, and time frame. That is old school. BANT is out the window, and the forward thinking is we need to find people that have a high probability of purchasing, because I don't want to wait until they've done all this research on the internet, because that's going to reduce my role to a bidder, or what I call a bidding monkey. And that puts you in, does not put you in the driver's seat. So let's talk about the 25-50-25 rule. This is really important when trying to understand the challenges of appointment setting. 25% of leads are considered sales ready. Now this is leads that you purchased, marketing generated leads, leads from your website. 50% require further nurturing, and 25% really maybe aren't a fit for your organization. What happens though on a practical level is that companies hyper-focus on the leads, the here and now, everything that's going to close this quarter. I don't want to talk to companies that are going to be buying in 6, 7, 8, 9, 12 months. The Harvard Business Review article will tell you that the top 5% of companies are actually focusing on the leads that are further out. What happens typically, what we see, is a bull in a china shop approach. So let's look at the old-fashioned way of appointment setting. I've got an opportunity. Let's say I know that you're moving, and I want to find out if you're going to buy furniture. Here's what the typical appointment setter might do. Hi, my name is Larry. I'm from XYZ Furniture Company. Understand that you're planning to relocate, and I wanted to know if you had any plans to buy office furniture. What you're going to do is maybe this 25% of leads that are sales ready, you're going to get a hit, but you're going to alienate the other 2/3 of the qualified leads. So literally 2/3 of your opportunity, you're alienating them. Now you might say, well, Larry, I don't know if that's alienating. Well, I want you to close your eyes and imagine the last time you went to a car dealership or you went shopping looking for something because you were interested in the new models. You walk into the car dealership, maybe you're going to buy in the next month or 2 or 3. What happens as soon as you walk in the door? You're attacked by a salesperson. And what does a salesperson say? They want to know, are you going to buy a car today? So what are you going to say? Typically, you're not going to say, well, I might buy in a couple of months. You just want to get rid of the sales rep. So you say, well, just kind of looking. So the sales rep is going to ignore you and move on to the next customer. That's typically what happens in business to business. So this is the thing that generates so many false negatives. We recently did some research and we asked our customers to gather up leads from the dead lead dumpster, and we were going to requalify them for them. So these were leads for marketing generated leads, leads from all different sources. We found that 75% of the leads in the dead lead dumpster that were told they weren't interested were actually qualified and very interested in the product or service that they sold. So we really need to look at this and develop a lead nurturing program. So here's the plan. We got to get ahead of the RFP. Very different than the old school. The old school, old methods from the last couple of years is get on the phone, get the appointment. They're either qualified or unqualified. The second thing is we need to get published, especially by a third party, because remember earlier we talked about the fact that peer-to-peer discussions, which means they're going onto the internet and checking out information about buying office furniture, leasing, buying phone systems. It's important that you're part of that discussion, so it's important that you get published by a third party. And then we're going to talk about the engagement marketing and lead nurturing program. Here's some interesting research for those of, too often I hear from companies, I'm only interested in companies that are going to buy this quarter. Well, the reality is 78% of buyers will buy from the first person to contact them. Again, this correlates very nicely with what Harvard Business Review was saying in their research, as well as a number of other research projects that I've read. And here's a great article called Selling is Dead by the Atticus Group. And this, I think, is a really important summary in terms of how we structure our appointment setting. There's a proactive way to nurture. Now, I'm going to stop right there. There's a proactive way. That does not sound like bank qualified. That means they're going out and trying to find companies who are not ready to buy yet. So it's actually the opposite of bank qualified. It's a method that buyers won't resent or that leaves them feeling as if they're being sold. So how does that work? Engage the customer instead of knocking them over the head and asking for an appointment. So the key for engagement marketing is, as the Harvard Business Review article said and the Atticus Group said, you got to find companies who are not ready to buy yet. So that might be companies whose lease is expiring or have plans to move in the future, or maybe they've moved a while ago, or they purchased whatever product or service that you sell. Maybe they have 5-year-old or 10-year-old furniture. Whatever it is, you got to find a source for information about companies that have a high probability of needing your service in the future. Another great thing for that introductory phone call is sponsoring a networking event. There was a great event sponsored by a local office furniture dealer in April. They had their Masters tournament, And what they did is they arranged to rent a putt-putt, mini putt, and set it up in their warehouse. And he invited everybody to networking, cocktail party, Masters mini putt golf tournament in their warehouse. Wildly attended. Everybody talked about it. But think about how difficult it is for Liam to make that phone call. Phone call is going to go something like this. And remember, they're not going to be moving or buying your product or service for 9, 12, 18 months. This is just your first introductory, couple introductory calls. So the phone call goes very easily. Hey, my name's Liam Casey. I work for Apex Facility Resources. Listen, we're having a great event. Matt Watson, the president of the company, wanted me to personally invite you to our Masters tournament. It's going to be on April 15th. We hope that you can make it. I'm going to go ahead and email you an invitation. So what a great thing, so that the first contact with them, you're sending them free information about phones, furniture, whatever it is that you sell. And the second thing might be an event. So there's lots of different things that you can do other than burst into their office over the phone or by email and ask them to buy something from you. Again, Gail Goodman wrote the book called Engagement Marketing. I highly, highly recommend it. If anyone's interested, I wrote an adaptation of that called B2B Engagement Marketing. If you want me to email that to you, just let us know. You can reach me at larry@InsightPRM.com. So let's talk about lead nurturing. When you're nurturing leads, especially leads that aren't going to be buying in the next month, 2 months, 3 months, right, where you've got that sort of frenetic pace, even those types of leads, you got to come up with a connection-based strategy, and that involves LinkedIn and personal connections. Getting people to call you back is one of the most important things. If you use a combination of this stuff, if you have sort of a LinkedIn connection where you know somebody who knows somebody, increases callbacks by 5 times. If you can make a personal connection, it actually increases callbacks by 11 times. Recently got a lead for an opportunity to supply data services to a large regional commercial real estate company. One of the managers reached out to me, and instead of immediately jumping on the phone and calling that, I went to LinkedIn and I found out that a good friend of mine, Andy, was connected on LinkedIn to the partner at this company, one of the owners. So I called Andy and I said, hey, do you know Glenn at XYZ Realty? He said, well, sure, we have houses right next to each other at the beach. I said, why do you ask? I said, well, one of his managers reached out to me about my product. He said, let me make a phone call to Glenn and I'll make an introduction. Got in at the ownership level, closed the deal, but obviously very, very effective. So one of the things that you want to do is increase the speed at which you can make those LinkedIn connections, and is there a way that we can speed that up? And again, with a fast CRM, with the right tools in place, how are you going to be able to find a better connection, a better prospect that you can reach out to? So here I just did a quick search of companies, and here is Reed Smith in Philadelphia. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to social media and click on LinkedIn, and let's see if I can get a quick connection. Well, here I've got a second connection to a partner at Reed Smith. So instead of using the provided lead, and actually I went to school with Jonathan Eisen, and I know Brad Siegel very well. So I would call these guys first before I would call this person. Another good resource that we highly recommend is a company called Jigsaw. We've partnered with them here, and you can easily get information about the company. You can see how quickly I can drill down. Now let's say there are thousands of contacts here at this company. I can filter this. It's just an idea of some of the resources that are available. This is not our company. This is Jigsaw. It's data.com. It's a great service. And you can see I quickly narrowed it down to 43 contacts. And let's say I want to deal with VP or director level. I can filter it down even further. So here's information technology director, and now I've got a better contact. And then you can purchase emails from data.com or Jigsaw for about $1 a piece. There's a number of companies that do that. So anyway, the idea is how fast can we make those connections, and how do we streamline that process so that when Liam is on the phone, and again, that kind of research is the kind of thing that Liam can do. You don't need a high-dollar inside salesperson to be able to make those connections. Another tip for appointment setting that you should be aware of, you're 3 times more likely to set an appointment when the telemarketer or inside salesperson follows up with the prospect within 48 hours of when marketing material is sent. So let's talk about a typical lead nurturing process to set appointments. So, and you're probably going to want to develop a couple of different lead nurturing plans. One for short-term leads, one for long-term leads. And this one might be for a longer-term prospect. So number one, you get the lead, search for a connection on LinkedIn, and call to invite to a networking event or show them, share with them an article. 2 days later, within 48 hours, we want to follow up with this prospect. 3 weeks later, we're going to call and send a link to an article. So now we've got 2 nice touches where we're giving the prospect some free info. And then maybe a third white paper on the green office, or new designs in office furniture, or what's the difference between voice over IP and a premises-based system, or 7 mistakes people make when they move their office. And then by the next call, now I think that I've earned the right or the ability to actually call and have a conversation with the company about what their needs are, and maybe call or even email to arrange an appointment. A lot of companies are having great success in sending a meeting request. But instead of sending that meeting request right away for the long-term leads, why not do a couple nice things? If it's a short-term lead, you might want to do one nice thing and then go in for the kill. But you definitely want to have a formal lead nurturing process. The other thing is, what do you do if somebody opens your email? So I've sent out this invitation, they opened that, or I sent a link to the article, or they clicked on the white paper. Again, you want to make sure that you can monitor those triggers that built right into the CRM will tell you the email was open, the link on the email was clicked, and then maybe there's some additional activities, and this sort of falls into the realm of marketing automation. So maybe when an email is open, that triggers an immediate call and you go in for the appointment. Or maybe when a form is completed, you're going to go into the appointment. But the idea is that we're going to get Liam to send out some nice invitations, networking events, and so forth, and let the customer open the email. What's critical is the subject line on the email. So for example, if I'm selling phone systems, I might send an article or have an article published on the 5 mistakes people make when they buy a new phone system. So if I send that email out and they open the email, there's a high probability they're in the market to buy a phone system. So I might speed up the process if they've hit one of my triggers. So Liam sort of puts the bait in the water, and when you feel a tug on one of the fishing lines, you try to reel them in. So before we go on, I just want to make sure, are there any questions? All right, so now let's talk about how do we get and how do we set up appointment setters for success. And that's the key, is getting the right people. Because if you have the right people, the deals will come. We all know that. We've seen that. Number one thing, mistakes that companies make is they don't understand the importance of qualified appointment setters. In our $10 million company, we know that we may have $3.5 million at stake. So let's say you're even a $5 million company. That could be an extra $1.5 million in sales that you could potentially get by just putting a little extra effort into. Too often I see companies trying to go on the cheap and get appointment setters. They're kind of looked at second-class citizens and paid as such, and guess what? You get what you pay for. The problem with appointment setters is that you can get absolutely nothing out of an appointment setter. The other assumption is a high level of intelligence is not needed. That's further from the case for the appointment setting. Now we've got a two-pronged approach now, right? We've got the long-term leads that we're going to let Liam go after because he's just going to give gifts away. But then we've got our short-term leads, and we need somebody to go in for the kill. So we're not going to abandon the appointment setter that we've got in place. We're just going to add a component to it, if that makes sense. So we're going to add to the success. We're not going to tear it apart. So this is in terms of getting a good appointment setter. This is really important and shouldn't be underestimated. A lot of companies do not respect the position of the appointment setter. The appointment setter is dealing with rejection all day. Imagine that you go to work as an appointment setter, you're dealing with rejection all day, and you kind of feel like a second-class citizen at the company. So it's important to motivate them and keep them motivating. The other mistake is you can't hire someone of average skill. The problem is that an average telemarketer is probably going to convert 4 or 5% of leads. An excellent telemarketer or inside salesperson is going to convert 15, 20, 25%. So you could be looking at a factor of 5, and that's the difference between a little bit of an extra revenue and taking that $10 million company to a $13 million company. Why most appointment setters fail? They're not qualified. Here's what I tell companies. How do I, what should I expect? How do I know if I have a good appointment setter? I would say that most of the time, if you hire someone and give them good quality leads, now I'm talking about leads from the internet, leads even from our competitors like TMI and BMR, they're all good lead sources. They've been around. If they've been around for more than 5 or 10 years, they're good leads and people generate millions from it. If you give them one of those lists or a Wendover list or whatever, and they don't get any appointments, like within the first couple of days or first week, and have a healthy pipeline, they're probably not qualified. It's very easy. One of the biggest mistakes that you can make is hold on to an appointment setter too long. They will self-identify. The best reps, now my whole business is inside sales reps. We have 100 inside sales people making phone calls, and what I can tell you from 25 years of experience is the best people in general come out of the chute, blazing, just absolutely blazing. But you'll know that they're not qualified because you'll hear the excuse. It'll be your product offering isn't good enough. The market is bad. It's the economy. It's the leads. You're not giving me the good leads. It's, they'll throw a kitchen sink, an old pipe. They'll throw a spider monkey on your face. That's when you know you probably don't have someone that's qualified. Obviously, they have to be able to deal with high levels of rejection. So when you're doing the interview, you want to try to get an idea, are they going to be able to deal with high levels of rejection? And do they have good communication skills? I mean, when you listen to this person, is this the kind of person that you want to represent your company? So that's important. So now let's talk about the strategy. 7 attempts. If you're using a quality service, and again, any lead gen service in our industry that's been around 5, 10 years, they're all good. They're all good. What I can tell you is that I'll tell you a story. We had recently had a client call, and he said, listen, I just closed one of the largest deals in my career. It's a $1.5 million furniture purchase, and I just wanted to thank you. And I have to tell you that when I got the lead about a year ago, and I followed your advice, and we started calling. And when I made the first call, they said they weren't moving, they weren't buying furniture, they weren't interested. So I did what you said, and I called them back, and they said they weren't interested, weren't buying, and I called them back and called them back. So they finally, on the fourth call, said, yes, we are moving, yes, we are buying furniture. And my rep said to him, you know, why did you continue to call? Even though, I mean, that's great that you got the job, but why did you continue to call? He said, well, let me tell you, about a year ago, before this, we had gotten your leads, and I called a 100-person law firm, great opportunity for us. I called, they said absolutely positively they weren't moving and weren't buying furniture, so I marked them as a bad lead. 3 months later, driving downtown on a Saturday night, 3 of his competitors' trucks are all lined up unloading new furniture into the space, and of course, if you're in that business, you pull over and ask what job it is, and it was that job that swore that they weren't buying furniture. This is what I can tell you. Recently, I told you about this fellow that I spoke to who's got phenomenal results. Very similar strategy. If you have good leads, believe in the leads. And again, Wendover's and any of our fine competitors deliver good opportunities. Just because they say no does not mean that they're not in the market. Think of it again. I want you to close your eyes and visualize walking into that car dealership when you know you're probably going to buy in 2 or 3 months. But you're going to tell the salesperson no. So the buyers of furniture, telephones, they're no different. So 7 attempts to a good lead source. And think about, you know, my journey of making 17 attempts to that lead that resulted in the biggest deal that I got last year. Here's a great statistic. 7:30, these are the best times to get in touch with decision makers. 7:30 to 9 a.m. and from 4:30 to 6 p.m. So if you've got your inside salesperson or appointment setter starting at 9 o'clock, you're missing half of the best time. You're better off getting them to start early and somehow managing to call during those periods of time. So when you're cold calling and trying to set appointments, forget the bull in the china shop approach. One of the best techniques and the easiest techniques is develop a rapport with the gatekeeper or the receptionist. Usually overpaid, underpaid, and overworked, and develop a rapport with that person. And that first phone call can just be an introduction to the receptionist and maybe confirm the email address, maybe get a little intel on the company. And then my second phone call, I want to get through the receptionist and say, hey, Laura, this is Larry Dillon from XYZ Furniture Company. We spoke last week. How you doing today? And then say, listen, I wanted to send an invitation to a networking event that we're having. When's the best time to get a hold of John? And would John be the person that would be in charge of buying office furniture from you? I also might want to find out who's the influencer. Well, John's the decision maker, but it's really, you know, Kathy Jones, who's our CFO. She's the one that really, she's the influencer, but the real decision is with her. People often ask me, how many dials per hour or per day should a good inside salesperson make? Now, that is going to be extremely limited based on the technology that you have. If you don't have the right technology, you're not going to be able to hit these speeds. The average company, the average inside salesperson makes about 60 dials per day. The average superior appointment setter, you ready, makes almost 200 dials per day, or about 25 dials per hour. Now think about it. Out of those 25 dials, you're going to get through to 2 people. 23 should be 10-second phone calls. Hi, this is Larry. When you get a chance, give me a call. My number is 610-555-1212. I should be done. So That's the benchmark. So if you have an inside person that's doing 30 or 35 dials a day, not even up to close to speed. I often get questions about, we get a lot of appointments that, get canceled or rescheduled. Is that normal? So I actually did some research on this, and I found the best research that I could find says in B2B appointment setting, expect 23% to reschedule or cancel. And when they cancel, you quite often you can reschedule that. So that's sort of the norm. The other thing is, how many leads and how many conversations should we have? About 500 leads worked for 1 month should result in about 40 conversations. So that's about 2 conversations a day. Now, that's all dependent upon a lot of different factors, but these are some guidelines for you. ABCs of getting the appointment, credibility statement or value statement. The best way to test a value statement is if you're at a family barbecue and you see some cousins you haven't seen for a while, and they ask you, what are you doing? And you tell them what your value statement is. If they walk away, it's not a good value statement. If they start to ask you questions, it's a good value statement. So if somebody asks me what I do, is I tell them I identify $30 billion in relocation projects before they select a vendor. That gets everyone's attention, and typically people ask me. So you want to make sure, what is your appointment setter using as a value statement? We talked about honoring the gatekeeper. I've often been asked, should I leave a voicemail or not leave a voicemail? You should definitely leave a voicemail. We consulted with a technology company that goes after quite large deals. One of their prospects was Donna Karen. The sales rep, Bob, left 9 voicemails, 1 each month for 9 months in a row, to get through to the CIO of Donna Karen. The voicemail went like this. Hey, this is Bob from XYZ Technology. Listen, Frank, when you get a chance, if you could give me a call, my number is 610-555-1212. After the 9th phone call, voicemail, the CIO of Donna Karen called the sales rep and said, you left me a bunch of voicemails. You are the most persistent and professional salesperson I've ever met. I get sales reps that call me every day. They leave 1 voicemail, and I never hear from them again. I'm really impressed. We're completely revamping our IT operations for Europe. I want you to come in and talk to us about it. The companies that we've coached on doing this, again, the voicemail, don't make it lengthy, short, and it does work. So, in summary, we're going to look at a 2-pronged approach, right? We've got our killer inside sales rep or appointment setter, difficult person to get managed. We're gonna do the job to get that right person. We're going to set them up with the right technology. We're also going to have an approach that works where I can take my 17-year-old. In fact, I was just talking to a gentleman from a $6 billion company who's going to get his 17-year-old son to actually make cold calls for the company this summer. So you should have that 2-pronged approach, one where we're going to go in for the kill, and then another one where Liam is just calling and inviting people to parties and sending out free information. Remember, 66% of leads need to be nurtured. In general, 66% of leads are ignored. Set the table for your appointment setter. Make sure you've got networking events, white papers, and articles get published. Develop a rapport with multiple contacts at the company. Make sure that you use LinkedIn to its full value with the connection-based strategy. That's super important. I would never call a prospect out of the blue without first checking that out. So that's it. I'm going to ask questions, see if anybody has any questions. Somebody asked for a copy of the PowerPoint. We're happy to do that. So Listen, thank you very much. I appreciate it. My name is Larry Dillon. I'm the CEO of the Wendover Corporation. We've got a great webinar coming up with sales management guru Lisa Peskin. Lisa Peskin went to the Graduate School of Sales Management. She was a rock star at ADP. Now she has her own consulting firm called Business Development University. We are lucky to have her. I think that's in about 2 weeks. She's going to talk about the keys to successful sales management. We've got a lot of great webinars coming up. I want to thank everyone for taking time out of their day, and good luck. If there's anything that we can do to help you out, please let us know. This is my passion in life, is helping companies get to the next level. So thank you very much.